Hi friends, welcome to Bloodline Revenge. Her father's final wish was for her to keep the family home, but her older brother had a different plan. Within a month of the funeral, he used her grief against her, claiming she was mentally unfit, freezing her accounts, and changing the locks while she was at the grocery store. He thought he'd won. He thought she was broken. He had no idea she'd spent years watching him cook the books at their family business. If you believe that greed should never be rewarded, stay. This payback is absolute. Clara didn't just lose her father, she lost her anchor. In the weeks after his passing, she moved through the world in a fog. It was her older brother, Mark, who stepped in, all solicitous phone calls and worried sighs. "You need to focus on healing, Clara," he'd say, his voice thick with false concern. "Let me handle the estate paperwork. It's what Dad would have wanted." Blind with grief, she signed the power of attorney documents he placed in front of her. She trusted him. He was family. The betrayal was surgical. While she was picking out a headstone, Mark was at the bank, freezing her access to their joint inheritance. While she cried herself to sleep, he was meeting with a lawyer to file for temporary guardianship of her finances, citing emotional distress and instability. He didn't just want the money. He wanted the house, the sprawling old family home on the lake, now worth a fortune. He wanted it all, and in her grief she had handed him the keys. Clara fell into a deep depression. It wasn't just the loss of her father, it was the erasure of her life. Her home, her security, her identity as a daughter and sister. The world felt hostile and gray. She didn't have the energy to fight. Mark's legal team sent letter after letter, painting her as unstable. They used her depression as a weapon, the very thing he had caused to justify his actions. "See," the documents seemed to say, "she can't even take care of herself." He even invited her to a family meeting at a restaurant. She went, hoping for reconciliation. Instead, his wife and her parents were there, all of them testifying that they'd seen this breakdown coming for years. It was an ambush designed to gather more evidence for court. Clara left the restaurant in a daze, the weight of their coordinated lies crushing her. One night, sleepless and hollow, she opened a random envelope. It was a motion from Mark's lawyer demanding she turn over any and all company documents in her possession. A strange detail snagged in her mind. Company documents. For years before their father's death, Clara had been the unofficial, unpaid accountant for the family's small but successful construction supply business. She'd done the books every quarter, not for money, but to help her dad. She'd seen every invoice, every expense, every payroll report. And she'd noticed things, small inconsistencies, odd payments to a shell company Mark had set up on the side. She'd mentioned it to her father once, but he just sighed and said, "Let it go, Clara. He's your brother." She hadn't let it go. She had kept copies, all of them. Suddenly, the fog in her mind began to clear. This wasn't just about her. This was about their father's legacy. Mark hadn't just stolen from her, he'd been stealing from their father for years. Clara didn't hire a lawyer to fight for the house. She knew that battle was a quagmire Mark was prepared for. Instead, she went after the one thing he never saw coming, his entire life's work. She sent her meticulously organized files, a decade of evidence of embezzlement, tax evasion, and fraud to the state authorities. Then she waited. The day of the final guardianship hearing arrived. Mark's lawyer presented their case with flourish, painting Clara as a poor, delusional woman. The judge looked ready to sign the order, giving Mark permanent control. Then Clara's pro bono lawyer, a young, eager public defender she'd found, stood up. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "before you rule, the state has filed a motion that I believe is directly relevant to the petitioner's character and financial probity." He handed up a copy of the indictment. The courtroom went silent as the judge read it, his expression darkening with every line. The judge's gavel came down, not to finalize Mark's guardianship, but to deny it completely. Given the serious nature of the criminal charges brought against Mr. Ashford by the state, the judge declared, his voice ringing with finality, this court finds him to be a person of unacceptable character to serve as a fiduciary. The petition for guardianship is denied with prejudice. Furthermore, All assets frozen under this court's temporary order are to be immediately released back to Ms. Ashford. The house was hers, the accounts were hers, the control was hers. Mark didn't just lose the guardianship case. As he was led out of the family court and into the hallway where state investigators waited, he lost his company, his reputation, and his freedom, all at once. His face was a mask of shock and horror as he realized his little sister had outmaneuvered him on a chessboard he didn't even know they were playing on. She didn't need to destroy him. He did that all by himself. She just made sure the whole world got to watch. For the first time in months, Clara could breathe. The house was silent, but it wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of grief anymore. It was the peaceful quiet of a sanctuary returning to its rightful owner. She walked from room to room, not with sadness, but with a quiet sense of reclamation. The smell of her father's pipe tobacco still lingered in the study. She smiled at that. She didn't throw a party. She didn't post a gloating victory message on social media. She simply made a cup of tea, sat in her father's chair, and watched the sun set over the lake. The revenge wasn't in the noise she made. It was in the peace she finally felt. "Dad," she whispered, her voice steady, "I saved your company. I saved your house. And I stopped him from hurting anyone else the way he hurt us. You can rest now." She didn't cry. She had no more tears left for Mark. The healing had begun. Mark's world didn't just crack, it shattered. The news of his indictment spread through their small community like wildfire. Clients fled. Suppliers demanded cash up front. The business folded within weeks. His wife, the same woman who had testified against Clara in the restaurant, found herself frozen out of their social circle. Friends didn't call. Invitations stopped. The life they'd built on a foundation of lies collapsed under the weight of the truth. In the visiting room, his wife didn't even sit down. She just shoved divorce papers at the guard and walked out. Mark sat alone, the metal table stretching endlessly between him and the empty chair across from him. He had wanted it all, and in the end he got exactly that, nothing at all. Clara didn't just inherit a house, she inherited a responsibility. She took over the business herself. It was daunting at first, stepping into her father's shoes, but she discovered a strength she never knew she had. She was good at this. The employees, who had always respected her quiet competence during her bookkeeping days, rallied around her. The company began to thrive again, this time with integrity. She turned the house into what it was always meant to be, a home, a place of warmth and gathering, not secrets and greed. On the first anniversary of her father's passing, she threw a party in his honor. It wasn't a sad occasion. It was a celebration of everything he built and everything she had saved. Mark picked up the phone, his eyes pleading. "Clara, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I was greedy. Can you ever forgive me?" Clara looked at him for a long moment. She studied his face, the man who had used her grief as a weapon, who had tried to erase her, who had stolen their father's legacy. She didn't feel anger, she didn't feel sadness, she didn't even feel pity. She simply felt nothing for him at all. Goodbye, Mark. The family business thrived under Clara's leadership. Mark was sentenced to 7 years for fraud and embezzlement. Clara never visited him again. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying the person who wronged you. It's building a life so beautiful they no longer exist in it.